Hello. We continue our discussion on the needs assessment. The needs assessment, it's part of the first stage in program planning, which is choosing what problem you want to focus on. The needs assessment comes after problem definition. We established that the problem definition is about an investigation of the social problem we are choosing to tackle and some research on the contributing factors and consequences of the problem we are choosing to address. The needs assessment, on the other hand, it's also a research project, but we're going deeper researching the problem. The purpose of the needs assessment, and this is very important, the purpose of the needs assessment is to establish what we need to solve the problem by looking at the state of the contributing factors of the problem and the community assets and resources we have to ameliorate the problem. This is a very important statement. The needs assessment is not there to assess what people need in general. No, it's very focused. It's there to assess what we need to tackle the problem that we have established in the problem definition stage. So, the research questions guiding the needs assessment in program planning are: how is the problem affecting a local population and specific groups within the population? Here we go deeper than we did on the problem definition step. And then we also looked at the second research question is: what is the state of the risk and protective factors in the community? And these are the risk and protective factors that we identified in our problem model in the problem definition step. And the third research question is: what resources and assets does the community have to address the condition? Now that we have established what the research questions are and that we understand that the needs assessment is really a research project into looking what we need to address the problem, we go into the steps that you would follow when doing a needs assessment. Let's go one by one. The first one is to set up an assessment committee that will collect the data. This is like an advisory board. It's a team of researchers that will gather and analyze data, existing data or collect new data, and a team of community stakeholders. The stakeholders in a needs assessment would be community members that own some data, right? Like, for example, it could be like the local social services agency that they have data on program participants or safety net resources that are around, or it could be heads of nonprofits agencies, or it could be community organizers, etc. These are people who know the community, know what's available in terms of data, and can help you obtain that data. So it's important to set up an assessment committee that will help you get the data and will help you organize the data collection mechanisms. Once you have established your advisory board and you have acquired some data that is available to you, right, you need to examine what's available, right? Remember that the data you're collecting is for three research questions. The first one is on the problem itself, right? Is it affecting groups that are, how is it affecting groups in our community differently, right? For this, we can get federal and state government data, we can get to the census, we can get reports, we can get databases from the federal government. We can also look at local government data, reports and databases that they have, like community agencies or nonprofit agencies as well. They may have reports they've written about the community, or they may hold perhaps databases on community problems. The second part of data that you have to look in is data on our contributing factors, right? So, for example, for the problem of obesity that we discussed, some of the contributing factors are no access to fresh and healthy food, or easy access to unhealthy food in schools. So here we will look at the data of where are we in terms of food accessibility in the county or in the region that your program is going to be implemented, right? For access to food, we may also look at federal or state government data, or local government data, or data for nonprofit agencies, or in this case, maybe even data from schools, whatever is existing. And we will also look on data on existing resources. What is it that we have out there? Where can we find all the after-school programs, let's say, that we have? On that focus on sports or nutrition programs. So this is the type of data that we're looking for. And the first step is to see what's available to you. And the third step is determining what data you still need to collect. If there's something you don't know about the problem or the state of the contributing factors or the resources you have in the community, then you have to collect that data, right? It's for populations we don't have information on, or for organizations that we don't have information from, or for areas or regions in the county that we don't know much about. So if you are lacking data on either the problem, the protective factors or risk factors, and the resources in the community, you have to go and collect it. That brings us to step 4, right? Determine how to collect the data. The data may be there, you just don't have access to it. It may be somewhere stored in some database that some agencies have. So determine how you're going to get to that data. Who do you need to involve in the process to obtain that data? Or you can also collect the data from primary sources. This could be quantitative or qualitative data. In the case of qualitative, you can have interviews, focus groups, case studies. In terms of quantitative data, you can do surveys. And you can also collect data on for creating an inventory of existing resources in the community, right? And this can be done looking at archival data, interviews in qualitative data, surveys in quantitative data, or by even looking at doing a web search to see what programs are available in your community. Once you have determined what data you need to collect, then you go and collect it. So at this stage, you have to be flexible, you have to be realistic, and you have to choose what depth of analysis you want to do. If you need to collect a lot of data, some data, or little data, and this will depend on the circumstances, and we will discuss this in the next slides. But once you have collected the data that you needed to collect, next step is analyzing it. And remember, by analyzing the data, you're looking at which populations are most affected by the problem, and also what is the state of the contributing factors in the problem. That's what we're trying to answer with the data we collect. Determine what is the story that the data is telling us. Do we really have are we really far off from where we want to be in terms of easy accessibility of unhealthy food in schools, or are we very far off from where we want to be in terms of access to fresh food for all the population, right? So that's what we're trying to get from the data we have collected. And the last step is to, once we have analyzed and we have looked at the state of the risk or protective factors, then we have to prioritize. And we say, all right, the data is showing us that we have to focus on these particular risk factors or these particular protective factors. because these are affecting the community the most, and also they have probably the greatest likelihood of positive results with an intervention through our program. So those are the 7 steps that you would follow when you are conducting a needs assessment, which is a focused research project. Now, I talked about making a decision of how deep you want to go in this data collection stage. You're deciding on the scope of your research. Are you going to go very deep and collect a lot of data on it, or is it enough to collect just a little bit? So there are 3 levels of assessments that you can do, right? And they vary in scope. In a level 1, you are broadly assessing the targeted area, examining all the risk and protective factors that you have in your problem model, and all types of populations affected by the problem. It's the largest in scope. A little more reduced would be a level 2, where you're assessing a target area that you don't know about, and you're only assessing a few of the risk and protective factors related to the problem, not all of them, or just a couple, right? The most salient ones. Or you can even reduce it even more into a level 3 type of assessment, where you're assessing just a targeted area to get information on a very specific aspect of the problem, or very specific protective risk factors, right? Where you are not going to all the protective factors or all the areas of the population, just one that you didn't know about, and just a couple of contributing factors, right? You would choose a big one, large scope, a level 1, if you need to have a wide range of community involvement in the planning and implementation. You're engaging your whole community, you're asking for a lot of data, and you are, let's say, surveying a lot of them. When community members need a lot of training in implementing needs and resource assessments, when you have a lot of time, at least 6 months to a year, and when you have a lot of resources to conduct a needs assessment, that's when you would choose a level 1. You would reduce the scope into a level 2 if you have a shorter time frame with which to work, the target population is a little more narrow, the needs and resource assessment has been done recently, you have some data already that you can use that is current, and there is a reason to think that things have not changed since the data was produced, or when you want to involve specific groups, but you don't need to involve everybody in the community to get their support. Or you can run a level 3 assessment, which is very limited in scope. When the target population is almost certain, you know exactly who you need to get data from, and there's a pretty clear idea about what the data needs are and what protective factors or risk factors you want to investigate. And there is existing data already on a lot of it, and it's urgent, and you need to do it immediately. Now, how you choose or what level to choose, there is no formula for doing that. There would be, of course, resource implications, political implications to it. It depends on a case-by-case basis. So don't let perfect be the enemy of good when you are choosing one. You don't need to have everything perfectly collected and everything known to have a good assessment that will help you create a fairly good program. So don't let perfect be the enemy of good, and be realistic in what you can accomplish and on what you actually need. One little tool for making a decision is this quality time price triangle thing. When you're faced with a task, you can choose between doing a fast job, an inexpensive job, or a high quality. So in the real world, you can only have 2. If you want something that is high quality and it's inexpensive, then you're sacrificing how fast, right? You cannot get a high quality, inexpensive, fast research or project in general, right? If you want it fast and inexpensive, then it's going to then it's you're sacrificing the high quality, right? Fast and inexpensive, you're sacrificing the quality. If you want it fast and high quality, you're sacrificing it being inexpensive. So it's going to cost you a lot of money if you want fast and high quality. So when deciding what type of level you want, you need to consider this, right? Which one are you willing to sacrifice? Speed, quality, or the cost? So this is just one tool that can help you understand how this decision is made. You will always sacrifice one of these three areas. That concludes our discussion on needs assessment. I will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.